So, what does it mean to be a leader? What a huge question that is. For me, leadership isn't necessarily about role or title or authority, and I think a lot of people think it is. For me, it's about behaviours, it's about attitude, it's about stepping up and making a difference or stepping out. So, it's around being part of the solution rather than being part of the problem. It's around leadership in all ways and shapes and forms. So, quite often I think we all think of leaders as being the top job, the senior role, the title, the authority. But at Common Purpose, we believe that everybody has leadership potential and capabilities, and that we can all lead in different situations, whether that's in our communities or in teams or in organizations. And we can use our personal power to do that. So we can influence, we can use the power of ideas, the power to connect, the power to communicate, but we can make a difference. So I think great leaders use that leadership to make a difference. It's not about a role, it's not about success, it's about getting involved in something I care about or I'm passionate about or I want to change. That's how I think about leadership personally. And I think, the reality is there are examples of leadership and management all around us, and there are good, bad, and indifferent. So we need to learn from all of those different things that we see around us and think about what kind of leader do I want to be. So when I'm talking about leadership today and giving you some examples of things that I think I think effective leaders do, that's what I'm talking about. I'm kind of not forgetting the fact that there are bad examples of leadership. So I think the other thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that we quite often think of leadership in a certain kind of, I know I did when I was kind of, earlier on in my career, you think of leaders as kind of charismatic, big characters, heroic leadership. There are lots and lots of different types of leaders. So I want to reassure you about that. I've met amazing leaders over the years, some who are very quiet and reflective. And by their very nature, we don't tend to kind of, even notice them sometimes. But actually, they are fantastic leaders because you notice the work that is going on. You notice the impact that their organization or that their team or their people are making. You don't notice them. And I think that's one of the greatest forms of leadership. So whatever you are in terms of how you behave in your style, please don't think if you are quiet and reflective, you can't be a great leader, because you can. I've seen it many times. So authenticity is important, I think, in leaders. And over the years, I've worked with thousands of leaders, from students like yourselves at BCU to emerging leaders to future leaders. And I think there are some common traits within the people that I've seen that I would respect as great leaders. So I wanted to just talk to you a bit about those. So one thing that is probably obvious, and you'd probably all have guessed, is good communicators. Now, for some people, that's about cutting through the complexity and giving people a vision of where we're going. It's about being able to describe complex situations very simply and to build trust enough that you can take people with you on that journey of where you're going. It's about, but it's also importantly about listening. So the listening part's incredibly important. I think quite often we talk about great leaders being able to communicate a vision, and we forget that the great leaders are also ones that are prepared to listen to different voices, to hear views that are different to theirs, to make sure that they don't lose sight, if they are more senior, of the people that are at the sharp end making a difference. So I think that listening is really important, and active listening, not kind of not just that I'm here, I'm willing to listen, and then not taking it in and not really listening. So I think that's important. I think they're adaptive and flexible, and organizations, communities, businesses, charities go through change constantly. So I think good leaders have to be able to adapt and be flexible. So they have their mission and they have their focus and they have their values, and that's their kind of anchor that keeps them grounded, but they can, change direction to get where they're going and to take people with them. So I think that's important. So there's consistency around values and mission and core, but flexibility to adapt to when circumstances change. And the current environment that we're in at the moment, on every level, whether it's around inequality or whether it's around response to COVID or whatever it is, leaders are needing to adapt regularly, and none of us have the answers to these questions. So it's about being flexible and adapting. I think another point that goes along with that is resilience. So leaders do have to be able to change and adapt. They do have to come up with a vision and a direction of travel, even when they don't have the right answers. So I think there is a resilience within that, of being able to be true to yourself and do the right thing for the organisation. But resilience also comes up when you have to make very difficult decisions. And now I'm talking about hierarchical senior leaders. You do sometimes have to make difficult decisions that impact on you and your teams and people you know and care about, but they are the right thing to do for the organisation, for your sustainability or for your community or whatever it is. And there are no easy answers. So you have to be resilient, and you have to be self-aware about, caring for yourself as well as your team and other people. I think there is something about visibility in leadership and approachability, whatever that looks like for you as an individual. You need to be open to listening, but you also have to be approachable so people can come and talk to you. And I think also interest in people. I think, the leaders that I see that I really admire are genuinely interested in people and genuinely have people at the heart of what they do, even if they're specialists in a specific field that isn't naturally a people business. Is they're interested in hearing, collaborating, working with others. And I think in terms of character, they demonstrate humility. So they don't think they'll have all the answers. They are honest and have integrity, which probably goes without saying, but I think it's important to say it. And they have a good character. So they do the right thing even when no one's looking. They treat people with respect. They know that they haven't got all the answers. They might know that there are issues within their organisation, but they want to kind of create a sense of a place that can change and become better. So they're not defensive when they are faced with challenges and critique. And I think the other thing that I think is really interesting, and is especially interesting in a crisis situation, is they have a bias towards action. And what I mean by that is they might very well be reflective, quieter leaders, but they know that they need to take action in certain situations. So they don't prevaricate so long that it has a negative impact on the organisation or the charity or the community. So they kind of take action when they need to. They don't wait too long when the moment has passed and it's almost too late to take action. So I think that's something else that I think is important in good leaders. And how they behave and think and lead, that's so difficult because each person is an individual. But again, I think there are some similarities that I see. Quite often, I think they have habits, whether that's self-care habits, looking after yourself, because you can't lead other people if you don't look after yourself. So that could be around exercise or mental health, or giving yourself enough space and time to spend on things outside work or with family or friends. So quite often they will have, if you ask them about what practices do you do to look after yourself when times are tough, quite often they'll have something that they do. And it's different for different people. For some people it's around faith or music or exercise or reading. That's another thing. They're learners. The one thing I've been really impressed at is how many senior people I'll talk to that are very senior, and I'll ask them if they've read a particular book and they'll say no, but they'll make a point of jotting it down, and they're constantly listening to podcasts or reading books. So whilst I believe you can't learn leadership through a book, you have to kind of practice and experience, they're still interested in hearing new opinions and listening and talking to new people. They're not kind of insular, they're outward facing. I think that's really important. And by that same token, they don't jump to conclusions. They don't think they know all the answers. So they're willing to be kind of challenged. Self-aware, I think, is important. Another thing is they tend to be dealers in hope. And what I mean by that is they're quite often natural problem solvers, or they've trained themselves to be problem solvers. So they're not overwhelmed by the challenges they face as leaders, because they know that their teams, their communities, their staff, their peers need them to be optimistic and dealers in hope. So it isn't that they're overly optimistic and they're not facing the challenge, but they're thinking about kind of almost like a roadmap to get us out of this challenge. And I think that's something that people look for, but they're open, and they're not afraid to show emotion or vulnerability, and I think that helps build trust. So I think that's another important thing in leaders. They've earned the trust of the people who follow them. It's not about the title or the hierarchy. That might be part of it, but they've earned the trust. People want to go with them. They're not going with them because they have to. So for you as BCU students, what can you do to sort of develop your leadership skills? I would say jump at any opportunity to try anything to test your leadership skills. So, you know, when you might be holding yourself back, when an opportunity comes up, whether it's to volunteer or to take the lead on something, and you're not sure whether you can do it or not, just put your hand up and go for it. Fear of failure can be crippling and can stop you learning, and you learn where you are out of your comfort zone. Focus on your strengths. Be mindful of your weaknesses. Balcony dance floor. Think about how you are and how your behaviour impacts other people, and be aware of that. But also focus on what you're good at. Be authentic. Be you. There isn't another one of you. We're all unique. We're all individuals. We all have all of those things that make us who we are. Everyone else is taken. You don't need to be a copy of someone else. Take the things that you admire from other people and learn about them, but be true to yourself. I think that's really important. Think about what's core to you, what are your core values, what difference do you want to make. Learn from other people, good, bad, indifferent. Take risks. Broaden your networks. So think about, who else can I learn from? Who can I learn from that's different to me? Where can I go for a different insight, something that's going to challenge my thinking? So it's great to be surrounded by like-minded people, but you don't learn from those people. You want to be finding people who think differently from you. Don't be afraid to do that. I think that's a really good learning point. Be a good follower. Now, this might sound like an odd one, but it's very easy to sort of stand there and critique and sort of say, well, I would have done it like this, or they should have done this. Be part of the solution. So if you're not prepared to take the lead, or you're not ready for that yet, be part of a team and support someone else who's taking that step, and be a good follower. Because if you've been a good follower, you will then become a better leader because of it. And ask for things. So don't be afraid to ask for feedback and to listen to that feedback and to take it on board. Don't be afraid to ask for opportunities. Don't be afraid to kind of go up to someone you admire and say, can I have coffee with you and pick your brains, because I'm really interested in learning about X, Y, Z. You know, things don't naturally fall in your lap all the time. Sometimes they do, and that's amazing. But the opportunities that you get through BCU Graduate Plus and all of the things that you come across in your university life and beyond, just ask. You know, the worst thing is people can say no. So if there's someone you admire on social media, if there's someone that you've seen, you know, give a talk and you want to pick their brains, just ask. I have been amazed at all the different things I've done in my career. I've been made redundant several times. I didn't go to university. I've worked in the oil industry. I've worked in hotels. I've worked in PR, done all sorts of things. The amount of people who have helped and supported me and given me a hand up when I've just asked has been amazing. And I, for one, like lots of other people, want to do that for other people. So you'll be surprised, I think, pleasantly, how many people do want to help and support, people coming up behind them. And also want to learn from you as well. You have something to offer, so don't forget that, because, you know, whilst we all remember what it was like to be your age and younger, it's a while ago now, so we probably want to learn from you as well, so don't forget that. And finally, there's a Michelle Obama quote that very much fits with kind of common purpose, and it is, try new things, step out of your comfort zone, don't be, I'm going to probably paraphrase this wrong, don't be afraid, step out of your comfort zone and soar. And I think that's something we talk about at Common Purpose a lot. I think leadership is like swimming. You can't learn it from a book. You've got to go out there and practice it and experience it You'll get things wrong, you'll learn, you'll become better. That's life, that's natural. So don't be put off. Don't think that leadership is something unattainable. It's something we all do every day. And finally, sign up for our free leadership program. It's called UK 101. So go to commonpurpose.org/UK 101. It's a leadership program for 18 to 25-year-olds from across the UK, and the next intake starts on the 22nd of June. And with that, good luck on your leadership journey. You'll be great. Be yourself. Take care. Bye.